Hello and welcome back, and in this video we'll be creating a nav bar just like this using Flexbox. So I'm gonna show you in this video how can you create a nav bar like this with this kind of cool simple hover effect. So this is a very simple nav bar that we're gonna create. So let's dive into it. So I just have opened up a blank blank folder inside of VS Code, and I'm gonna create a new file, and I'm gonna say the file name is gonna be wait a minute, yeah, the file name is gonna be index.html. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, this is the file, and then we're gonna create a new file that will be styles.css. okay, that's our CSS file, right? So we have the index.html and we have the styles.css. so very first of all, we're going to fill up the index.html, and afterwards we'll also fill up the styles.css. so it's a pretty simple task. In the index.html, I can just put an exclamation and then hit enter or tab, so this will generate me this boilerplate code. So I'm going to go ahead and rename the title to Navbar Flexbox. It's a very simple thing, so we don't actually need a title, but let's just put it. And also we'll link the style sheet because we are using it in a different file. Okay, so we're gonna link it using the link tag. So I can just say link and then rel is equal to style sheet, and the href will be /styles.css. actually / shows us the path, so it's good to put / over there. Okay, so here is our simple stuff, and now I'm gonna right click and then open with, not stop the live server, but open with live server, and that will start up the live server. Okay, so it's totally empty right now, we just have the title. Now what we can do is go into the body and let's just create the markup. So the markup for now is we are using a nav tag. So we're going to be using emmet in this video. So if you don't know how emmet works, it's a very simple thing. You just enter the tag name and then you hit tab or enter. It just gives you the whole code, okay, like this. Okay, it's autocomplete. So we create a nav, okay, which is the main tag where we'll store our nav bar. And then inside of the nav, we're going to create a container div. Okay, so container div is a simple div that contains everything. So if I show you the example right over here, okay, so we have some space right over here and some space here. If I open up the dev tools and show you, so if I just go ahead and select the whole nav, but inside of the nav, if we take a look, we have the container div. If I just hover over it, if I just select it, as you can see, we have some kind of yellowish color on the left hand side and on the right hand side. So that is the margin that container provides you. Okay, so it actually has some spacing from the left hand side and the right hand side. So if we remove the container, then it would look bad. Okay, all of our links will stick through the left and right side. So it's better to add a container. We can also add padding, but it's good to add a container. Okay, so that's the container that we're gonna do. We are gonna learn Flexbox here, so we don't need to learn container, hopefully in another video. So I can just say dot container to generate a div with the class of container. Now this will hold all of the links. Now actually what we are gonna have is, if we just open up the Navbar Flexbox, our project, so now this one is gonna be inside of a div and these three will be inside of another div. Okay, that's what we're gonna have. So let's just do that. So I'm gonna say a div with the class of logo, because that is what logo. Okay, I'm gonna then create an a tag where the href will be hash, so that means it's a dead link, it won't go anywhere. And then I'm going to create a simple h1 where I'll say q. Okay, it's a very simple task. So if we now view our app, it just says q. Okay, and it's a link, it's a dead link. Okay, so we have logo div inside of which we have a tag and then we have the Q, which is the logo. Now we can go outside the logo div, and then we can create a UL. Now UL means the unordered list, so that's what we're going to use for the links, right? So UL, and then I'm going to add a class of nav dash links, nav dash list to be more better. Okay, so that's UL, and then we're gonna put, now we want 3 LIs, and then we want a tag inside of each LI. That's what a navbar looks like actually. So we're gonna have LI, which means the list item, 3 times. So if we want it 3 times, I'm gonna say multiplied by 3, so that will generate me 3 LIs, and I want an a tag inside of each of them, so I can just say greater than sign a. So that will generate me 3 LIs and then an a tag nested inside of it. So that's the power of emit. Then I can just make them dead links for now. So hash, and then I can say home, hash, and then I can say about. Now if you are wondering how I am navigating through this, so I'm using tab, then hash, and then tab, and then contact. So these are the simple links. Hit save, and now you look that they look pretty ugly. So now the markup is done. Let's just go to the CSS. The CSS is pretty straightforward. So first of all, we're going to select all of the elements, okay, with this asterisk. So this will select all of the elements, and then we're going to say margin 0. Okay, so we're going to set the margin to 0. We're going to set the padding to 0 as well, and then we're going to set the box sizing to border box. Now these 3 properties on the universal selector are kind of, I won't say must, because they are pretty good. Okay, they do a lot of benefit. I mean, with these 3 properties, your page will look like this. Okay, so you don't have any margins, you don't have any padding, you have nothing on all of the elements. So it removes the margin padding from all of the elements, and box sizing is something else that if you know CSS boxes in CSS, then you'll understand what it is. Okay, so that's the thing. And now let's style the nav. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the nav with the tag name. Okay, so nav is the, so we are using nav over here, so we're gonna use nav tag to just select it. Okay, on the nav we're gonna add a background. Okay, and the background is gonna be linear gradient. Okay, if you don't know what are gradients, it's a pretty simple thing. Okay, if I just say linear gradient to right, and I can just copy and paste some colors that I have right over to the next side. So let me just do that. So that is the first color. Okay, and here we have the second color. And now this is what linear gradient is. So what it will do is it will create a gradient backgrounds to right. Okay, so from left to right. So this color will be on the left and this color will be on the right. So if I just save this, and if we go ahead and take a look at our navbar using Flexbox, where are we? Okay, so now we have a cool gradient that we used in that one as well. Okay, so it's same like this. Then we're gonna add some padding. So padding I will add, so padding will be 1 rem. If you don't know the units, rem, pixels, pcs, it's a very simple thing. Rem means 1 rem means 16 pixels. Okay, so 1 rem is 16 pixels long, or 1 rem is 16 pixels wide, something like that. So this padding 1 rem is gonna add some padding to our Flexbox, to our navbar. Okay, so we have some padding now. Now the navbar is done. Let's now style the a tags. Now these a tags look pretty ugly, right? They look like, I mean, they have an underline, they have a different color. So first of all, we're going to remove the ugly underline. So that's text decoration, with which we can just say none. We can just set it to none, and then we can just add a color. So I like the color of navy, So I'm just going to put the color of navy. So this will manipulate all of the A tags and it will make them, I mean, it will remove the underline and it will make them navy colored. So now this is how they look like. Okay, a lot more better. Then now it's time to style the container, okay, which is one of the most exciting parts. It's a pretty easy task. So I'm going to select the container div with the help of dot. Okay, so we use dot to select elements with classes. Okay, so we gave the class of container to this div, so we're going to select this div using dot container. So now whatever I put inside of it, this one will go to the container div. And so we're gonna first of all add a width of 85%. Now I'm not here to explain you how the container works and what is it, but just as basic knowledge, we apply some width, and let me just save it. So basically we apply some width. Okay, so the container will be like this. Okay, 85%, let's say around here. So we apply some width, and then what we do is we just center everything. Okay, so everything, I mean, the width is right over here, the empty width right now is here, but what we do next is divide it. Okay, so half of the width here and half of the width here. So maybe I'll make a video on container in future. Now if we want to center it, now the width is 85%. If I just show it to you, I think I should move the dev tools below. Okay, so this is an simple issue. Let me just go ahead and do this. So if I just show it to you, if I just go ahead and select the whole nav, and if I go inside of the nav, let me just zoom in. So if I go inside of the nav, if I go ahead and select the container, so as you can see, we have some empty width, okay, on the right side. So that's the yellow color. So that's what we want to divide on the right and left side. So how do we do that? We just add simply margin to auto. So what that will do is it will take the width right over here and it will add it as a margin. So I mean, it was not width, it was some margin that was left right over here, so it just divides it. So now our links are properly centered. Let's move back. Now we have both of these on a different line. Now we're going to use Flexbox. So Flexbox is pretty simple. First of all, we use the display property and say flex. What this will do is whatever items we have in the container or whatever div you have, so we have two items, remember, okay, understand it properly. We have one as the logo div and the other as the UL. Okay, so we have these two things inside of the container. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna, if we say display flex, it's going to align them to, I mean, left and right, so they won't be on stacked up on each other, so they will be like this. Okay, they will become side by side. So as you can see, now they are side by side. They don't look that good, but we're gonna fix this. Display flex, and then we have, after adding the flex box, we can say align. Now if I just take a look, okay, this does not look good at all. So what I'm going to do is this Q, as you can see, it's not totally centered vertically. Okay, it's vertically not centered, so we're going to center it vertically so it looks a lot more better, like this. Okay, it's, as you can see, this one is centered vertically. So now let's just go ahead and say align dash items. So and then we set it to center. So what that will do is align all of the items to the center vertically. Okay, according to the container div or whatever div you're using. Then we're going to say justify content. If you don't know what it is, let me just tell you. Space. So we have many properties right over here. We have center and we have many properties. If I just use center, what this will do is it will align the things horizontally. I mean, we did that vertically, okay, with align items. What justify content will do is it will add it horizontally like this. Okay, so it will be centered right over there. So this is not what we want actually. So we have many more properties, that is space around, space between, and space evenly. If I add space around, So that will actually add the space around each item. So we have some space here, we have some space here, some space here, and some space here. And then if I add space evenly, what that will do is that will add evenly space all over the place. Okay, so that also doesn't look good. The best one is space between, which what it does is it adds the space between these two items. That's a lot more better. Now we are done with the container. Let's jump on to the nav list. This one is also pretty simple. Now as you can see, our links look good in the sense of color, but they are still stacked up on each other. So we're going to use display flex here as well. So display flex, and also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a width of 60% right over here on the UL. Now this dot nav list means the UL that we are using, this one. Okay, so we are just using display flex on these three, and we're gonna add a width of 60%. Now I'll explain you in a second why do we need that. So as you can see, now we have a width of 60%. So the 60% will be the 60% of the container. Okay, so the rest of the width is, or rest of the area is for the logo, and now this is the area for our links. Then I'm gonna add, now I have added display flex. What I can do is I can just add the justify content, and now I can select any option of any of these, but it's good to select. Now what we want is, if we go back to our ready app, let me just close the dev tools. Okay, so this one has space between each of the link, so that's what we want, I think. Or I think we should add the space evenly, because we have an even space between all of them. Okay, if I add space between, let me just add space between, and then if you take a look, so this is how it looks like. Okay, it has a lot of space between all of them, so it's better to use space evenly here. And what that will do is that will reduce some space, and this looks a lot more better. Then we don't want to align item center, because we have done it already right over here. Now we're going to add the list dash style to none. What that will do is, pretty simply, it will remove the bullet points, which we don't like at all. Now the nav list is also done, and now let's select the nav list, but every a tag inside of the nav list. So this is how we do that. Okay, so dot nav list means the UL and then space or this a, so that means you select every a tag inside of the nav list. So we're going to remove this, we can just add a space. So every a tag inside of the nav list will have some styling. So I'm going to add font size, and font size will be 1.2 rem. Okay, so as I told you, 1 rem means 16 pixels, so 1.2 rem will be somewhat higher. Okay, and it's better to use rems, it's recommended to use rems. So now this is how they look like. Okay, a lot more larger, a lot more better. Now let's the thing I like a lot is you can add Google fonts or any font you want. Now currently we are using some weird kind of font. I mean, this is the serif font, which is the default font. You can just go to fonts.google.com, and what you can do is just take a look at all of these fonts. You can also filter out the fonts that you want, but the font I personally liked is called Mullish. Okay, this is the font. I can just click it to select it. I mean, not to select it, so I can just click it, and I can select the regular 400 style. If I just select the style, if I click on embed, and then we have two choices. Instead, add this link tag in our HTML, or add this import inside of our style. So I can just copy this import real quick. I can go back, go to the top, exactly to the top, paste this link. That's it. Okay, that's what you want. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to each element, so that means the universal selector. Then I can just add a font family to Mullish or Mullish, whatever it's pronounced, and a fallback of sans serif. Sans serif is the font that looks a lot more better on websites. So Mulish is a sans serif kind of font. The font that we saw earlier was serif font. Okay, save that. So if for some reason Mulish is not available or some internet problem, so sans serif will be the font instead of Mulish. Once that's done, we can go back and this looks a lot more better. Now let's work on some more things. Once that's done, let's go ahead and go to the A tag, not the A tag actually, the Nav List A, and we can add some border. So border, and then the border is gonna be 2 pixels, so it will be 2 pixels wide, solid, so it's gonna be solid, and then the color. So okay, so we're gonna set the color to transparent, so that's the border that we cannot see. And let's add some padding of 5 pixels. Okay, that means the link will be a bit larger so that we can click it properly. And I think that's it for the link. If we go back, as you can see, we don't have, I mean we have the border, but it's transparent. It's 2 pixels solid, but it's transparent. And we can add now a hover effect. So Nav List A, that's how we selected, and then I can just say :hover. So what :hover is gonna do is whatever styles we put inside of here will be triggered when we hover over, when we put the mouse over to the link. For instance, if I just change the color to red, if I go back, okay, so if I hover over it, as you can see the color changes to red when my mouse goes over it. But we don't want that, right? We want it to animate like this. Okay, we want the border. So let's now put some hover effects. So first of all we're going to change the color to a different color. So the color is #3434, not 2424, it's 343483. This is the color, some purplish color, and the border color as well, border color to the same color. Okay, select that. Now let me explain you. What we have is a border, okay, a border of 2 pixels solid and transparent. So we have transparent color. Now when we hover over to the link, we'll set the border color to this. Okay, so now then it won't be transparent because we set the border color to this. So if I just save, and you'll see the magic when I hover over this, you have this cool little border. Okay, so that's amazing. But one thing we're missing, so if I hover over this, there's this little transition, and this one happens just instantly. We don't want that. Now this is also pretty simple. Go to the link, okay, the main one, and then let's add the transition. So that's transition, and then we're going to add all. That means I'm going to explain you 0.3s and then ease in out. So all, what does that mean? All means whatever styles you put over here, they will be animated. Okay, so that means all. Okay, I can just add color, so what that will do is that will only animate the color. Okay, if I add all, it will animate all of the styles. And then this is the time, so how much it should animate. So 0.3s, that means around 3000 milliseconds, or I think 3000 milliseconds. Okay, so this is the thing, 0.3 seconds. And then ease in out is just a transition thing. So there is you have ease, you have ease in out, and ease out. So that's a different thing. Okay, that's transitions. And that's it, we are done with it. If I just hover over these links, I see this cool little animation. And I hope you learned a lot from this video, because we covered Google Fonts, we covered Flexbox, we covered hover effects, we covered the container. I didn't want to explain the container, but still it was explained. Okay, so we covered 4 topics in this around half an hour video. I hope you liked it. Share it with the friends who want to learn web development. And finally, thanks for watching.